Hola, me llamo es Mr. Ensmer. How's that? So, today we are going to be doing a little project, lucky number sevens. So if you want to create a new project here, lucky sevens, put it on your desktop. You are going to create a nice little slot machine using what we've learned so far. Alright, so we have our form. Let's manipulate this form to be the way we want it to be. My text, of course, I'm going to change my text to lucky sevens. We are going to then go up to the form border style. Right now it's sizable. I am going to make this a fixed tool window so that I can't, after I'm done designing it, when they're running it, I can't modify the size of this thing. That way it's not going to be, they're going to be messing with the size of it because I'm going to lay things out a certain way. From here, rather than doing a background color, let's do a background image because background images are fun. We're going to go to Import, and I'm going to go to your Resources folder. So Resources, Sample Graphics, going to go to Background, and I'm going to look for something that is a nice little like tabletop type thing for a slot machine. Let's go with, I'm not really a fan of any of those. Photo. Hey, there's decent ones. How about this coins right here? Yeah, background photo coins. I like that one. How's that? Why not, right? Why not? Okay, so we have our background image tiled. We have our text changed. We have our form border style so that it can't be resized when we're running it. We will resize it here in the design in a moment. But I'm now going to start laying out some of my tools. So I'm going to make a slot machine. My button here, my button is going to be the click to spin button. Let me make this a little bit larger and make my font nice and big, bold. Let's go with, I don't know, Verdana. Click to spin, and then we can sort of adjust that as need be, maybe something like that. Obviously, it does not matter to me what your font is. Your design choices are your design choices to most degrees. I would tell you if I wanted you to do a specific thing like it has to be yellow or red or something like that. But otherwise, feel free to be creative with this. My foreground color, I'm going to make my foreground color be about gold. Well, maybe not. How about the background color be gold? How about that? Background color gold. And then, of course, the foreground color has to change because otherwise I can't see anymore. For the background color, we'll do gold. For the foreground color, let's look for like a dark silver color. How about dim gray? Yeah, that looks good. Nice little color contrast to this. So make a button, put in the text, change the font, colors, all that good stuff. All right, from here, we are going to make 3 labels. All right, now, good design decision here. Don't make 3 labels and then change them each to be the way you want it. That makes no sense. Make 1. Then make it the way you want. Change everything about that 1 label box and then copy and paste it to make 3 of them. Just save yourself a lot of time. So I'm going to double click, make a label. There's my label. I'm going to put it, somewhere, there's the middle roughly. I'm going to put left of middle somewhere like that. And for my properties, I'm going to go down to the bottom. I'm going to make my text 0. Now, clearly, little tiny 0, way too small. So I'm going to go to font, up that, maybe, I don't know, make it nice and large. 72-point font for, I don't know, century. So yeah, nice big number there. Maybe line that up with that edge. That might be a good idea. So we have a big old 0. Now, the only problem is this thing, you see how you can't really change the size of it. All right, so when we talked about label boxes, one property that you're going to change almost always is the property called auto size. Auto size is true, which means the size of the box wraps around your text. I often want to change that to false because then I get the freedom to do whatever size I want. And if I want this to be a nice perfect square, let me go down to size. I'm going to make this exactly 150 by 150. So it's a nice perfect square, but of course the number doesn't line up, like that doesn't look right. It's because underneath text, you're going to go to text alignment, and you're going to click this little tic-tac-toe grid, you're going to click on center. So text is 0, auto size false, text alignment middle center. The text itself is 0, the font, I made it nice and large. Now let's also go and make, I don't know, maybe like a dim gray background, and then we'll make the foreground color, maybe we'll just make it opposite colors. We'll go like gold for that. Yeah, it looks pretty classy. So, is there anything else really that we want to do with that? Not that I can think of. So here's what I'm talking about. Like, that's done. So now if I want 3 of them, I'm going to take this one, right click, copy, and then go paste, paste, and then line these little things up side by side. They have little docking clamps to sort of guide you in. Give yourself a little bit of space between them. If you want to override that docking, like when you get close to something, see how it kind of gets sticky? If you hold down Alt, see how it's completely gotten rid of that stickiness. So you can kind of fine tune it. The other thing is when you let go, you can use the arrow keys. Oops. To kind of fine tune putting into place also. So I'll move my, I said C, because like you can see my fingers. Look at my fingers, guys. They're hitting the arrow keys. So you can obviously do that, or just kind of guide these into place the way you see fit. Something like that. Okay. So we have label 1, label 2, label 3. Make sure yours are in that order. When you copy and paste, they go and spawn the code, label 1, 2, 3, they spawn the order in the order that you copy and paste them. So just be aware of that if you're copying a whole bunch of stuff like here we just did. 1, 2, 3. Okay. My goal here is I'm going to click to put in numbers randomly, 1 to 7, inside of those boxes. Very exciting. I'm also, though, going to work on something we've done this week. I'm going to do picture boxes. So I'm going to double-click one single picture box for now. I'm going to put it underneath my first label. Then I'm going to load in a specific picture here. I'm going to load in, if I go to image, or I could just go to my little drop down there, go to image, click on that, go to image, and then go back to sample graphics, go to, I believe it's under the second folder, the animated GIFs. Go down here, and you're looking for the $sign. Look for the $sign. Hit OK. So when you do the $sign, again, as it often will, it's going to look a little bit weird until we adjust it. So as far as the size mode, I'm going to do stretch. And then for the size, I'm going to make the size of this match what I did above, 150 by 150. So I have this box is 150, this box is 150. I'm going to guide this so that it's exactly locked right underneath it. Give yourself a little bit of space there. Okay. I'm also going to go up to back color. Now I loaded a background, or I loaded an image in there. The background is right now not transparent. If I open this up and go to transparent, whoops. Oh, I just did the form. My bad. I clicked off of it. See, that's how easy it is to get distracted. You've got the picture box here, like I was saying. Go to background color, go up here to web, transparent. And now, that's what I was trying to do, you have a transparent $, which will be animated when you run your program underneath that 0 for label 1. Now, I'm going to take that, copy, paste it. So now you have picture box 2 right underneath this one. And I'm going to have picture box 3 right underneath that one. Ta-da! It's a little slot machine. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make each of these $signs invisible. I'm going to click and drag to highlight all 3 of the picture boxes, not the labels, the picture boxes. Go to visible and go to false. They'll still be there in the design because you don't want them to go away when you're designing it. You just want it to go away when you're running the program. So highlight all 3 of the $signs and click visible to hide them. The final thing I'm going to do, I'm going to give myself a little bit of space here. I'm going to put my logo of my game over here in this little no man's land type area. I'm going to do one more picture box and put it up here somewhere. And then I'm going to go to my little arrow, choose image. I'm going to go back to that same folder. I'm going to go down to 7. So load 7. And then a couple other things about that. I'm going to go to the size mode, as we often do. Go stretch image, go to back color, go to whoops, that's not transparent. Transparent. Make it nice and big, not overly crazy. You know, maybe we can shrink it down so it meets those 2 or something. I don't know. Again, like the design decisions are yours to make. So there we go. Before we start coding this thing, let's run it and see how it looks. Sit back and be in awe of this amazing program. Look at that. The 7 sparkles. The $signs we can't see because we made them invisible. And of course the button doesn't do anything yet because we need to code this. So there's our design. There's step number 1. Look at that thing. Vegas ready, baby. Okay. Next, I'm going to be doing random numbers. And if you remember our random number video, you need to set up the random numbers first. I could double click on my button, but I could also double click on the form, not the labels, not the picture boxes, but the form to go into the code for form load. All right, now the form load, this is what happens when you first run the program. This is where we type that command randomize to set up the random number generator. So make sure you throw that in there. I'm also going to go up top, put in my header. I just put in, I used to use C++ and Java commenting. Commenting in BASIC, as I believe I've shown you in these videos, the apostrophe, Lucky 7's program. And of course, this is whenever, whatever, period, you guys, and then my name. So inside then the form1 class, you have the subroutine for form load. So all it does at the moment is set up the random number generator. To get to the code for clicking the button, I can usually use the drop downs or go to my design, double click the button, and it takes you to the code for button 1 click. All right, next, inside of our button, I'm going to make a couple variables. I'm going to make variables that represent the numbers 1 to 7. I'm then going to put those variables into our label boxes. This is also going to show you some of the issues with variables inside of subroutines. So I'm going to say dim num1 as integer. dim num2 is integer, dim num3 as integer. I'm then going to use a random number, num1 equals intrnd times 7 plus 1. I'm going to do that for each of my variables, num1, num2, and num3. So that's going to give me 1 to 7. I'm then going to print those out. And when I say print them out, I mean I'm going to put them into the text of the label box. I'm going to say label1.text equals num1. Things go right to left. So you're storing the number, storing the variable into the label box. And you're going to do that for each of those values. You can see how this would get a little bit repetitive. Copy and paste will be your friend with this. And so let's just run this with what we have right now. So what I've done so far is this. You have random numbers 1 to 7 appearing in each of those boxes. So good start. Now, I want to show you a couple things. When you dim a variable, when you declare a variable inside of a subroutine, it only exists inside that subroutine. Meaning, if I come up here to form load and I try and type num, it's not recognized. Num1, num2, it has no idea what that is. I'm just waiting for it to kind of catch up there. It has no idea what that is. And yeah, I mean, I get it, the fact that it is down below. Maybe you're like, well, it's down below, you know. So what if I dim something like dim x as an integer, right? If I come down here and I try and use x, nope, doesn't recognize it. These are like little individual programs. If you dim something inside of a subroutine, it only exists inside that subroutine. For your Python game program, some of you did a little bit of research and found the word global. And you made a variable inside of your function, but you wanted to use it everywhere. That's what we call a global variable. In Python, you just label it. In Visual Basic, it's where you declare it that matters. So, had I dimmed stuff up above all of my subs, so it's outside the subs, it's outside of everything, it's in this little section up here called the declaration section. If I dim test as integer, let's say, okay, so if I type test here, recognizes it. If I type test down here, recognizes it. So anything that needs shared between your sections, your subs, dim them at the top rather than inside. But because I'm not using these anywhere else, I'm just going to keep it right here. Just dim them right here. Now, you might be wondering, like, well, why don't you just make everything global? Well, it takes more memory to store a global variable. That's why it's better to use what we call local variables. We're not going to get terribly in depth with that this year. If you take future courses in computer science, we'll talk more about that. But I just wanted to at least mention here because it's going to come up in your Visual Basic programs. As we do more and more subroutines, you're going to have more and more variables in those subroutines. But again, there's no crossover unless you put them at the top of your code. Another thing I'm going to point out is I didn't actually need variables here, but I should use them, and I'll show you why momentarily. I could have said, like, instead of doing any of this, you know, just don't do this, but let me just show you. If I just take all that out, I could have just as easily said, dim that from 1 to 7. And then it goes right into label. Now, the reason I didn't do that is because typing num1, num2, num3 is much shorter than label1.text. So in this next line of code, see the difference. When it's a 7, I want something to happen. Okay? If num1 equals 7, then I'm going to say show picturebox1. Picturebox1 dot visible equals true. Okay. Now, could I have said if label1.text equals 7? I can. If label1.text equals 7, picturebox1 dot visible equals true, you can certainly say that, but it's just shorter to say num1. And there's other issues that come up. The fact that that's text and not a number. It sort of deals with it, but not always. So it's just better to make variables when you're standing for something that is a value that you want to store. Also notice, we've done if statements a couple times now. Notice that your if statement here is just one line. There's no end if. It's all in one line. If you only have one thing to say, you don't need the end if. You can just do it straight across on one line. Could you have done this and put if blah blah blah, then blah blah blah, end if? Yep, that's perfectly fine. But if I only have the one line of code, then I'm just going to do it with one line. Whoops, wrong copy and paste. Copy, paste, 3 and 3. Okay. So now I'm going to run this. There's going to be some issues, but I'm just trying to do this like as we go to show you what happens here. Some of you may see it. I click on that. Oh, look, I got a 7 right off the bat. $sign there. Click again. 7's no longer there. Uh-oh. Now there's a 7 there. That's there. Uh-oh. What if I do it again? Now they're gone, but those are still there. See, they're off in the design, but then when you run it, you turn them visible when it's a 7, but you never turn them back invisible. Now, we could do an else with each of these. We could say if it's a 7, make it visible, else make it invisible, but there's an easy way to do it. Every time you click the button, why don't we just reset the state of all the buttons? So up here, I'm simply going to say picturebox1.visible equals false. And I'm going to copy and paste that. Boom, boom. 2 and 3. Oh. Ah! 2 and 3. Come on, stop fighting me. There we go. Oh my gosh. Sometimes, I swear. So we reset them each time. Because like I said, these are their own little programs. So with that, now, 2 7s. So they're there. Click again, now they're gone. So it only shows $signs when you have 7. If you don't have a 7, you're out of luck. So you can turn on things on, make them visible, invisible, visible equals false, visible equals true, as you see fits. Again, in the design phase, make them invisible. But in the code phase, you can turn them on and off. Pause to catch your breath here. We have one more thing to do. I know the video is a little bit long, but that's why, because it's a little bit of a bigger project. So now I want to have something happen when I have multiple 7s. And an or. Yes, they still exist in Visual Basic. If num1 equals 7 and num2 equals 7. And num3 equals 7. So if they all equal 7, let's say you won the game, you can do button1.text equals you win, or something like that. But then the thing is, it'll change that you won. It'll change the text to say you won, but you'll be able to click it again. So let's say I want to disable the button from being clicked again. I want to stop the program. Button1.enabled equals false. Visible means you can see it or not see it. Enabled means you can use it or not use it. You can make buttons invisible, but you can also make buttons disabled, which means they're grayed out. I'm sure you've dealt with computers before with options that are grayed out. Well, that's what this is. Enabled equals false. And then you have to basically stop the program because there's no way to re-enable it unless you do it in the code. We could also do something with or. Let's say you have else if. And notice in else if, it's all one word. It's not elif, it's else if, just one word, else if. Num1 equals 7. So that means you have 1 7. And num2 equals 7. So that means both 1 and 2 are 7s. Or num1 equals 7 and num3 equals 7. So num1 and num2 are the first two. Num1 and num3 are the first one and the last one. If you want to, because and or have an order of operations, which you kind of, if you think about it, sort of makes sense. The and goes before the or. So there's the first two, then there's the first and last, and then finally, and I'm just going to put this on the next line down, num2 equals 7, and num3 equals 7. So that's the last two. Then, so, what do I want to have happen? Well, how about we do something where we change the button's colors? How about we say something like label1.backcolor equals color dot, I don't know, green. Label2.backcolor equals color dot green. Label3.backcolor equals color dot green. So it's going to change those background colors. Now, again, if you're thinking, just like here when we turn the picture boxes visible, we have to, every time we click the button, we have to turn it back invisible. Well, guess what? If we change the background colors one time around, we have to do before we spin again, change it back. We want to take those 3 lines, come up here to where we set these all to false, and let me change these back to the original color. Now, what's the original color? I don't know. I have to go back and check. So, it doesn't say, there's no command that just says, like, do the original color. So for me, it's dim gray. If you do a different one, then go ahead and do a different one. So here's where we will finish. So let me just walk you through it one more time. We have 3 variables that stand for the numbers 1 to 7. Every time we click, we reset the visibility of the $signs and the colors of the boxes. We make a random number, 1 to 7. We fill them in, and then we test it. If it's a 7, then we do some things. If it's 3 7s, we do some things. And if it's 2 of the 3, we do some things. So let's give it a shot. We'll wrap up. There's 1 7. Now, of course, for probability, this might take a little bit. I think I did just see 2 7s, and it went away really quickly. So what's an easier way to test this? Well, let's go back. Right here temporarily, let's make 2 of these a 7. And we'll make the other one be just something random. Okay, we'll put the randomness back in, but just to test it, let's just artificially make it a 7. Click. It didn't make them green. Why did it make it green? Well, we come down here. Do you know why? Any guesses? Because I have and right there. That should be or. I'd love to say I did that on purpose, but in me speaking, I actually realized I made a mistake. I typed it. I have a little typo there. That should be or. Let's try it again. My bad. Click. Hey, there's my green. And then if I get a 7 here, hey, you win. So now here's what I'm talking about. I can't click anymore. I have all 7s. Now, probability-wise, is that likely to happen? No, but this is a little fun Visual Basic exercise. So it is what it is, kids. It is what it is. All right, so there's lots of stuff we did here in this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I know we're about the half-an-hour mark. So thanks a lot for watching. Take care. Enjoy.